Guiding your next pop culture journey, this is In Quest of Geek.
The best explorers and heroes must now arm themselves with the social, cultural, and emotional tools they'll need to delve deeper than they ever have before. This is our Dungeon Dive.
With you on this dive will be Alix, your host and professional moderator.
JPG, pop culture critic and geek educator.
And special guest adventurer, Val Lawton.
So sharpen your social commentary and prepare your most inclusive spells, because we are here to build better character.
Welcome back, Brave Questers, on our newest Dungeon Dive, Fruits Basket Season 1. But a dive this deep is going to need some outside help, and we have Val Lawton to round out our party. Val, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Hi, my name is Val, if you didn't catch that already. And I am a huge fan of Fruits Baskets and some other anime, as well as K-pop. And yeah, I like a lot of things.
Forget the fact that you cosplay, that you watch a lot of Marvel.
Yeah.
Other things.
I'm not great with introductions. I'm sorry.
I've got
Okay, well, don't worry, because we're gonna guide you through this.
Okay,
First
here I go.
and foremost, I think there is a weekly show that you're a part of. Is that right, Val?
Oh yeah. Women Wednesdays. You can check us out on Twitch on the In Quest of Geek Twitch. I'm joined by Alix and Nicole and Kelly, and we play video games. And sometimes we drink and play video games.
And
but
what do you
it's all
think,
fun.
like, you know how, like, in like K-pop groups, like, there's like the nice one and the edgy one and all that stuff as well. I'm just talking out of my butt right now and like watching your face, and this is pretty
Yeah, I can
this
tell.
is pretty great.
I
This is
can
pretty
really
great right now. What's your aesthetic like when you're on Women Wednesday?
What's my aesthetic?
What's your aesthetic?
So there's this thing in K-pop where, you know, everyone has their place, and the youngest member is called the I'm gonna say it wrong because I forgot how to say it. The magne.
Okay.
Who's
And what
usually
does that
the
mean?
usually the cute one.
So
Like
in
the
skating, the littlest member on the team was called the pancake on my team. Because when you make pancakes, you make all the pancakes around the same size, but there's always one at the end that you make that's like smaller than the rest. And so whenever we had a little like the younger person on the team who was shorter than everybody else, we used to call them the pancake.
Wait, that's so cute.
How do you feel about Alix in her headcanon referring to you as the pancake?
I mean, I'll take it. I already got an inside joke with some friends where we're a bunch of pancakes, so it's fine.
Wait, what's my aesthetic on the stream?
Ooh. I mean, like, I feel like the really obvious one is you're the leader.
Yeah, like you're the Beyonce.
Well.
Well, no, I'm talking about Val, I'm talking about Destiny's Child.
Well, yeah, I know who Destiny's Child is.
I don't know because I'm
not that young.
As the pancake, we don't know. We don't know if you're 4 or 22. Like, we don't know if.
Well, I'm 25. Technically, I'm still considered a millennial, I think, but I call myself a zillennial because we're in that like weird middle area where I'm too old for Gen Z, but I'm too young for millennials, you know?
We're going to go back to aesthetic later. I'm absolutely sure people are going to be tuning in order to hear our thoughts about Fruits Basket Season 1.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, exactly. This is why we invited you. This is why you guys subjected me to how many episodes at this point?
How many episodes are in? It's all a blur.
Season 1 is 25 episodes.
So 25 episodes. You have subjected me to 25 episodes.
I watched all of Season 1, all of Season 2, and what's out of Season 3.
Samesies. Alix and I have already discussed what's happened.
Episodes. What a hard life you live.
Oh my god, your life is so hard.
Well, I actually only got through the first season. So my apologies in advance, but also I left Invincible. Uh, I had to leave because Invincible needed to be caught up on. And now I'm caught up on that and Fruits Basket, you guys. So you guys should be really proud of me right now.
Okay, so obviously we don't need to go into these are the characters, this is the show. If you guys want that, check out Tavern. So we're going to dive a little deeper into this. And JBG, hold on tight because Val and I made a list.
I only really have one big thing on my list, but I'm excited to hear your guys' list as well.
It's a very long list.
It's a very long list.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this right now.
My question is, do we need to do your one thing first?
No. It'll definitely come up during the talk itself as well. I think, it's really funny. It's weird coming into a show where I'm not the one that's been in the deep end, right? It's the both of you guys that have been in the deep end. And now I have to learn from the both of you because slice of life is definitely not my thing. And I feel like Fruits Basket is the gateway into slice of life if you like violent anime.
I could see also being the gateway out of slice of life.
Oh, interesting. Okay, but I feel like we're going to be getting to that in just a bit. But I want to hear your list first.
Well, you triggered Val's first trap card, which
no.
on her list, the very first thing is slice of life, but the show is so unexpectedly sad and real.
Literally read it word for word.
Wait. I'm assuming that if it is slice of life in the sense that, we are peering into people's lives and it doesn't necessarily have to do with like fighting and large scale narratives and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were we not expecting it to be super sad because people's lives are sad essentially in the first place, right?
Well, for me, from what I've seen from other like peering into other slice of life type of animes, or at least the stigma with slice of life anime is you think everything is super happy and just like silly and there's no fighting, but it's still like kind of that stereotypical anime like fun happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts off that way. The first episode, it really kind of starts off like it's kind of weird, as you would expect, and it's kind of on a happier note. But then as you keep watching, even the first few episodes, you start to realize how deep this show gets and how deeply emotional the show gets.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it's also listed under shoujo or shouju. I'm not really sure. Shouju. On Funimation, but it's also under slice of life. So it crosses over into more than one genre, which is why I think it's a way in, but it's also a way out. Because for me, I went on a slice of life binge, and then when I started this and it popped up on there, I was like, oh, I wonder what's under this genre that might also interest me. So it took me the other direction.
I mean, first and foremost, then, is there an issue with the tonal shift that most people are expecting with Slice of Life, as opposed to what you get for the show, right? Do you guys think it is a little bit too stark of a difference from Slice of Life in the first place in order to be considered like quote unquote one of the best slices of life, or what do you think about it?
Val can correct me on this if she thinks I'm wrong, but for me, I think it's what makes it so good. When I went through such a hard binge, I can't even tell you. I would have to sit there and be like, okay, what was the name? Okay, what was I can't remember. They kind of blur together. There's certain stark standout ones, and those standout ones are because they're so different. Your Lie in April was one of the saddest animes I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
Still fell under one of these two categories where I wouldn't have watched it, but it stands out to me because of how heartbreaking it was. This one stands out for so many reasons, but heartbreak is one of them. And for me, it's just so different, but it's close enough. It's almost like a cousin of Slice of Life.
Mm-hmm.
But the good cousin that you want to invite to all the parties that
yes,
sneaks you booze when you're like 18,
Val, what do you think about, I guess, like this this like genre bending, right? It's not quite a slice of life, it's not quite a shoujo, it's not quite anything that we haven't that we are traditionally able to see when it comes to anime.
I think it's a really great idea, the fact that it kind of bends between different genres, because like kind of like with Alex, like because she saw that it was under different genres, it interested her to check out other anime.
Mhm,
So for people that want to branch out, the best way for them to branch out is to
mhm.
find things that are similar to what they already like. And I mean that kind of goes with anything, with any type of show, movie, any type of media. If you want to branch out, to start with something that's already kind of similar to what you like. And I think that's a great idea, and I think that's a just a great idea to introduce. I don't know. I'm kind of going off saying the same thing, but yeah, I think it's a great idea.
No, I think it kind of reinforces Alex's point though too, right? That uh yes, it can get you into it, but then also like if you try to look for anything else that feels like Fruits Basket in itself, you're not going to be able to find a lot more slice of life shows that capture the same aesthetic and feel, right?
Absolutely. And I think we should kind of talk about some of that aesthetic if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to start with Toru. I'm going to apologize now for any pronunciations because JPG has already warned me that they are terrible. But when we worked on them, he said, "Never mind, you're hopeless."
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was
And I
pretty
don't
bad.
want Anthony to have to edit 5 minutes of me trying to say Toru 5 times. So we're just going to say I'm trying my best. I am not mocking any names or cultures. I just suck as a person. Fair
Okay,
enough?
that's fair.
I have an issue with Toru.
Miss
Okay,
Honda?
Miss
Yes,
Honda.
Miss Honda.
Okay, wow. Well, then I'll let you have your
Like
issue before I say what I was going to say.
right out the gate, right? This was like my one thing that I took from this as well. I have been watching a lot of Invincible lately. We're also getting ready for our next episode, which is Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which we'll also be talking about at the end of the episode, also. And I've really been diving a little bit deeper into trying to get like a little bit more realism in the animated space, right? Uh, I have an issue that I love Toru as a character. Please don't get me wrong, but I think there's a bit of toxic positivity that seeps into her actions. And I mean this girl is strong, right? Like nobody can. There is nobody in the show that is stronger than Toru Honda is. She lived in a tent for a while. Her dad died. Her mom died. Her grandpa has obvious uh has obvious
Alzheimer's?
like signs of Alzheimer's as
Yeah.
well. Her family hates her for no reason. And then all she can rely upon is herself at this point. And when I explain to people one of the biggest questions that we get is like, "Oh, hey, like why is everybody in high school but they're all like adults, right?" You have to do this sort of age shift whenever you watch anime where it's like, "No, if you're in high school, you're really in college. If you're in middle school, you're really in high school." And then that puts you in a better maturity mindset for what they're trying to do.
She was also bullied as a kid.
Yes.
Yes.
I would say though at times, a lot of it is some of her actions do come off as, oh, well, like things can be worse and I can take care of it myself. And if I just, like I can pull myself up by my bootstraps. And at times, I think the show also gives her the ability to fail in those ideas. But I'm also a little bit worried that those ideas can be dangerous at times. Did you guys ever pick up any sort of like toxic positivity from her?
Well, I made the note that to kind of go off of that, that she's been through a lot, and the way that she masks her pain is through her positivity. That's her coping
Hmm.
mechanism. And even
Hmm.
like all of them know it too. All of them are fully aware that that's how she is, and even Kyo
Hmm.
said she smiles to hide her feelings.
Hmm.
Like it's very it's interesting because they're all very aware of it, and I lost my train of thought.
Well,
Sorry.
okay, that's okay. I wanted to touch base on something that you said. You specifically named this as a coping mechanism, right?
Mhm.
Now, I don't know as much about psychology in itself. Are coping mechanisms in general, are those supposed to be considered healthy, right? Or are
Depends
coping
on
mechanisms, are they kind of like the band-aid
it.
for the real problem?
It depends on the type of coping mechanism you're using and how you're using it.
Okay.
So, as somebody who was going to therapy through 2020 and can't even sit here, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna play. I definitely smiled to mask the pain that I went through in 2020 and smiled to, oh no, I'm okay, I'm doing all right. I mean, we obviously all do it at work because you're not going to tell some stranger, like, oh, I'm having a rough day, let me tell you. But you're also doing it so you don't have a breakdown every 5 seconds. And I was given different coping mechanisms to help with the anxiety and the panic attacks and all those pieces that I was going through. And probably at the time they were band-aids. But underneath those band-aids, I started to heal because they taught me that, okay, it's going to be okay. Okay, I can get through this moment. I'm not going to fall apart right here, right now. And so, yes, she's smiling through it. And yes, it could be a band-aid, but it could also be her giving herself a chance to heal without falling apart to the world.
I just actually looked this up, and it
And
looks
you're
like
wrong.
no. No. Okay, so I just looked this up, right? There are two types of coping mechanisms, right? Or that I can see right now. There is maladaptive coping, and then there is adaptive coping, right? So adaptive coping is supposed to be the healthy ways that you cope, as opposed to maladaptive or the destructive or damaging ways, right? Do you think the characters in Fruits Basket in general, all of them have problems, right? And all of them have legitimate problems. Do you think the things that they do are adaptive, or do you think they're maladaptive? And I'd love to like hear some examples from you guys.
I mean, it really depends on who you're talking about.
Oh
And
no,
at
give me
which part of
Like,
the
it
characters.
really-
we're talking.
Yeah, give me
Um,
characters right now.
So, like with Akito, for example, they do not handle their trauma well at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Akito has so many other problems, but they're very violent both towards others and towards themselves as a
Okay,
way to
and
cope with their own trauma.
I know that you guys are ahead of me in the series right now. Does Akito just straight up suck
Yes.
for the
Yes.
rest of it? Okay, cool,
Yeah.
because I feel better about hating Akito.
They do
Because
an episode where they try and teach you, like, this is their damage and this is why they are the way they are.
Mhm.
But for me, it's a multitude of things. Since we're just diving deep into this, you have physical abuse, you
Mhm.
have mental abuse,
Mhm.
you have actual manipulation
Mhm.
connected with guilt, forced guilt on other people, connected with victim blaming,
Mhm.
connected with playing the victim themselves.
And
Mhm.
we are supposed to take this series as a slice of life. Is the series trying to teach us that and I have an answer for this myself, but what is this series trying to teach us about the manipulation in your daily life? Right? Are we supposed to be assuming that you can live the perfect life or you can be as positive as possible, but these are the things that you still need to look out for?
I'll go while Val's more shocked that you asked really good questions.
Thanks.
She wasn't prepared for you.
Yeah. And
No.
it's really funny too because I know that we had this whole talk. You've been having this conversation for like the past week about like you gotta come in hot. You gotta come in hot with all these questions.
So I would say for me, and this is a bit of a season 3 spoiler, I guess, but it's kind of the goal of season 2. So I'm just going to connect all the dots here. I think the goal is teaching about how to get out of those relationships, that you can get away from those relationships, and that family isn't always the bond that you should be surrounding yourself with.
There's definitely a very stark difference in the show between the family that you're born with and the chosen family that you
Mm.
decide to stay with.
You get that. Oh gosh, the Lunar New Year Festival episode. You get that a lot. In the sense where it's Kyo and oh my gosh,
This is the banquet episode where Kyo and
why Yuki? Thank
Yuki
you.
decide not to spend New Year's with the family, but to spend
Yeah.
it with Toru,
Right.
so she's
Yes,
not
yes,
alone.
yes.
Yeah. Which I mean, Hanajima. I appreciate her because she's that girl has got her other girls back, you know.
That is a best friend.
But
That's a best friend for sure.
also, like Kyo and Yuki, they're very emotionally stunted in very different ways, right?
Mhm.
And Toto is supposed to be this. At times, she's kind of like this magical girl that fixes all of the men in her life, which is
I would
like
say men
kind of a
and women, because I
yes,
don't.
yeah. I
I
think
will
she's
say
just trying to fix all the somas, right?
Yes.
There's something wrong with all of the somas, and she's just gonna fix all 13 of them at this point.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, the thing with Kyo, I'm just sliding over here. I don't know. Somebody slow me down if I go too far the wrong direction. But I think what's really interesting about Kyo is that he's very similar to her best friend. U-
Uotani?
Uotani. So Uotani was saved by her mom, right? Her mom is a redemption arc that we don't see.
Mm-hmm.
We see point A and then we see point Z.
Mm-hmm.
We get an episode of Uotani's redemption arc. And to me, I think Kyo is the same redemption arc that we saw before, but we're in it instead of the fast forwarded versions that we saw of the other two.
I mean, I think Utani and Kyo are incredible parallels, but I also think Hanajima and Yuki are incredible parallels as well.
Yes.
Where both of them are
Ooh.
are ostracized for really the things that are internal for them, right? Yuki from the very beginning was very honest about he everybody is at an arm's length because he can't allow himself to connect with others in an emotional way, right? Hanajima in turn is forced into that, right? Because she has her powers, she tried to be honest about it, and nobody was cool about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is always hilarious to me that like anime could just be like, oh hey, there's this B plot where this lady can just like feel all of your vibes, and then we're never gonna like address it. How did she get these powers? Anything like that? Because in the anime that I'm used to, right, she would definitely be like the second in command or the lieutenant, and she's like murdering other people with the other main characters, right? Like, so it's like weird to me to see like, oh, like she has like cool witch powers and nothing.
It cracks me up because it should really be this weird, strange thing, which the other kids picked on her. I get that. But then you have these other characters that are turning into zodiac animals. So you can't really say, oh, this one's not acceptable, but this one is. Like,
Yeah.
if we're just going to jump. And that's part of the shouju part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because she wouldn't be in Slice of Life.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely, that's where it crosses over. But I do like the fact that same thing. We saw her, she's already redeemed, right? We got one episode, but she's cool. She's best friend. Life is great. And so you're right. We're getting the parallels of them, but we're also showing that who you were isn't who you have to be. And I think that's really important because I can't tell you how many kids I've worked with where they were like, oh, well, this is my troubled past, or this is what happened, or this is the mistake I made. And literally a quote I tell my kids is a quote they say in the show, which I used to tell my kids before I ever saw the show, for the record. But it's the idea of like, yeah, you made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. It's not about the mistake. It's what you do next. And I think this show is so big about that, right? Yeah, this knocked you down. What happens now?
What else is on your list right now? Because I feel like we've only addressed like two things, one of which was mine.
I mean, I can kind of start off with we kind of see this with animes in general or any type of Eastern media that you'd watch, like K-dramas, which love them. But you get this difference between the Eastern life and the Western life, and like the difference between relationships with one another as well. Kind of like, I don't know if this is a thing in like Western, but there's this thing called skinship, which I learned this word through K-pop and knowing K-pop and K-dramas. And it's this thing where you're just really close friends and you're really like touchy with one another. You're just really close,
Me
basically,
with a
right?
lot of my friends.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of girls are like this in general, but in terms of, Western relationships with men with other men, you don't see this. You don't see this skinship where they're so comfortable with one another that they will be touchy-feely, really close physically. And it's very prevalent that you see this in Eastern cultures.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot in the show too. Like you have Shigure, Hattori,
And
and
IMA.
thank you, Ayame. And they're, the three best friends. And you see Ayame and Shigure's relationship. They're very like, oh, I love you. Oh, and like very jokingly with one another because that's their relationship. And they'll
Mhm.
be like all touchy and whatever. And that's not weird. It's not weird. It's normal. So it's really cool to see that on screen too, like that type of friendship.
I think Eastern media as a whole really enjoys breaking a lot of the Western media stereotypes, right? And I think this is a big problem with why a lot of the Western audience isn't just isn't open to opening up to Eastern media, right? Because there is that stark difference between what a quote unquote cis white male is supposed to represent, right? I think Momiji is another really great example of this, where one of the youngest from the Somas. I think there are like two other people that are younger, right?
Yes.
Hiro and there was
Yeah.
the young girl,
Kisa.
Kisa, not Kagura, because Kagura is a crazy one. So with Momiji, right? Like there's every time you see Momiji is dressed in women's clothing. Momiji is also, I mean, we have a very, very messed up episode that centers around Momiji as well.
Yeah.
And okay, so like you guys are making faces at me right now. Is Momiji just like a lady at the end of all this?
No.
Oh,
Okay, gotcha. All
We
right.
can talk to you off air. We can't talk to you on air.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But also keep in mind Momiji's only a year younger than Toru and
Oh,
them.
yeah, because
A year younger and then the same age as Haru.
Haru the
Hatsuharu.
cow.
Yeah.
Cow/ox. Yeah.
So I thought that was a little bit weird because I was like, wait a minute, because Momiji is a very specific archetype
Mm-hmm.
in Eastern media, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the same you have the same feel with a character named Honey-chan
Yes, I was
in
just
Oron
thinking
Host Club.
that. The
Yeah.
Lolita type,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Which it's tough because in Eastern media, Lolita doesn't have the same Lolita or like Lolly or like any of that stuff doesn't have the same gross misconception or connotation, not misconception. It doesn't have the same gross connotation that it does here in Western media, right? Because you say Lolita, and that is gross here, you guys, because that means something completely different.
Oh, I only know it from Honey Senpai,
Mm-hmm.
from the Oron Host Club,
Mm-hmm.
because they like put them all as types in this host club, and that's how he's introduced. Is he's the same age? I think he's even older than the guy who protects him, but he's the adorable, dresses young, carries a bunny,
Mm-hmm.
just super cute. So I definitely put them in the same bundle. But when we're done with him, I do want to tie him with Ritsu, if
Well,
that's okay.
let's talk about Oh, okay, yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Ritsu's the monkey.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And Ritsu is assumed to be a girl
Mm-hmm.
all the way up until Toru hugs him and he transforms because he's actually a boy who also wears women's clothing, but wears his hair like a woman, speaks like a woman. And to me, this is one of those big ones that breaks gender norms.
Mm-hmm.
While this was 2001, and here we are in 2021, where guys are trying to fight for the right to wear dresses and skirts and have that be okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was really cool that we have two characters who break those stereotypes without either one of them having to be gay to do it.
I think Ritsu represents something very specific, and it's and I think a lot of characters in the series do this as well. Is we need to focus on the feelings itself, not the social and gender norms that people are putting out, right? Even with Yuki, one of our main characters, the when he goes to save Toru from the new family that she has to live with, the guy thought that he was a girl.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
that's
he was
great.
quote unquote so pretty.
Yeah. And so I think the fact that they focus an entire episode around Ritsu and their struggle as well, and Ritsu become really good friends with the editor
The
of
editor.
Higure's books?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Because they both have a similar personality type. And then
Gotcha.
she says that she will Ritsu says that they will teach the editor how to be more feminine,
Mhm.
which I just love. Now, what was interesting to me, and I know what I just said about, they didn't make them gay. They don't have to be gay. They can just be them. But a lot of the things Ritsu said are things that I've heard from transgender friends.
Mhm.
This is how I felt more comfortable. I tried on the dress and suddenly I wanted to have the dress and I wanted to wear the dress. And this made me feel safe. This made me feel like I could be myself. And so part of me wonders, had this been written now, because again, this anime was originally 2001, and before that it was a manga. So,
Mhm.
we have to backtrack it to a point where, yes, transgender was a thing, but not a thing that was very common.
Mhm.
And so unfortunately, not a lot of people got to be their true selves. And so part of me wonders, if we were now the way that they were speaking, would they be non-binary? Would they be transgender? Would they just be a guy who's gender fluid, or just a guy who likes to wear women's clothing and feels comfortable? I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many ways it could go. And I think it would have gone slightly different if we were now versus then. I hope I said that okay.
All right. What's next on your list?
Oh, got to go back to the list.
I know.
I have one for male toxicity.
Oh
Okay.
God.
Go.
So much.
I believe it was Hero. Let me go back.
Hiro is connected to Kisa.
Okay, so Hero
Sheep.
the sheep, yeah. So he's obviously a brat. And part of why he's a brat is because he's really smart and surrounded by people who aren't as smart as him. And that instantly makes, I've seen it time and time again where they talk down to people.
Mhm.
But I felt like there was a lot of boys will be boys with that. Oh, it's just his age. Oh, he's just a kid. Oh, it's okay. They never fully said it, but it gave off that feeling that made it okay for
Mhm.
him to be
Mhm.
acting the way he is. And only the ones that, I believe Momiji was the one who like, hey, be nice, be nicer, and Kisa. But everybody else kind of just excused it and therefore don't really teach him that, hey, that attitude, that's not okay. And then with Akito, we see a lot of punishment on the women
Mm.
that are around them, and not as much on them. Yes, they torture the men, but I see a lot more abuse on the females.
I think there's a lot of explaining away in general when it comes to the Soma's negative traits, right? Hatsuharu, we are framed at like it's we see him in this first episode and it's framed as, oh, he's an idiot at one point and then he's just super violent in another.
Right.
And I'm like,
Haru.
no, that's not cute, but then it's still aesthetic. He's still aesthetically pleasing, and that's focused on throughout the series, right? Oh, Hatsuharu's so hot and all that as well, right? We
Well, you
also
could
get
look
this.
at it another way though, that's a mental health thing.
Mhm.
That again, 2001 versus now, would it be written the same?
We also get the same with Kagura, though. With a lot of her anger management, it's all explained away by like, oh, she just like loves him, so it's cool.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
the same way I feel about Hero.
Yeah. Val, for you, who was the one that like? Okay, besides Akito, because that's too easy of an answer. Like, who was somebody in the cast that you couldn't connect with because of their negative traits?
Ooh. I mean, yeah, Akito's the really easy one.
Yeah,
for
that's the easy
sure.
one. You can't
That's
pick
why he took it
Akito.
away from you.
I think I have this love-hate relationship with Shigure.
Yes.
And like, he has his moments where he's, fun and he's there and he has his moments where he has these speeches and he's helpful and he helps Toru and Kyo and Yuki, right? And he's seems like a good guy, but he has similar traits to Akito where he's very manipulative.
Yeah.
And it's hard to trust him because he has these moments and Hattori knows him very well.
Mm-hmm.
And if Hattori is very questionable of Shigure's intentions, then why should we trust him? Even though he has his moments, and I want to like him, but then he has his other moments, and I'm just like, bro,
He's a
what are
cute
you
guy
doing?
with a hard bite.
Yeah.
I think my issue with Shigure is that there's it's tough to follow his inconsistencies from episode to episode, right? Because you think of him as an idiot, and then you find out that he's an author, and then you find out that like he's the one who owns the house, and like I don't know. There's just a lot of like weird like why are we following Shigure right now?
Wait. Do you realize what kind of author he is, right?
Oh, isn't he like an erotic author?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I thought in the two books there was like an okay book and then an erotic book, or was it like an erotic book and a more erotic book?
No, he has like a good book, and then he has like a bunch of smutty books. I just
Nice.
really wanted to
Smutty
say
books.
smutty
Yeah.
books.
Which I mean, no, I'm not here to kink shame at this point, right?
No,
You know?
that's a quote from a
Yeah.
musical. It's a smutty book. Okay.
And-
Anyway.
and for me, I think there's like a weird, quiet sex positivity in this first season as well, right? Because we meet. Okay, so Hiro and Kisa, right? They're part of the same clan, but they're not related. But they kind of like love each other, and so same thing with like Kagura as well. I think there is what I appreciate is there's very much an accepting. Oh no, they love each other. It doesn't matter what age they are, as long as they're appropriate ages with each other. You know, not Shigure and high school girls, because that was gross.
Yeah, that was weird. buys Toru the dress. I was like, oh, I think she'll like this. Maybe she'll wear it when she does chores. I'm like, what
bro.
the heck?
Yeah,
Bro,
I'm glad that
no.
didn't come back.
Yes, yeah. I would say that there is always going to be a level of sexuality in Eastern media, mostly because how Eastern storytelling views sexuality. It tends to be at a bit of a younger age, and it tends to have a little bit more of a serious tone when it comes to like younger love, right? How many times have I'm sure there are countless anime out there that is all about like these two high school people in love that are going to stay together forever.
Mhm.
But I remember being 14 and smelly, and and I don't understand how and so that's why we I mentioned this before in the show as well, but that's why we need that sort of age shift where we think of high school as college and things like that.
Now, Val, before I do my last one, what else did you have on your list?
Oh, I mean, I feel like we've covered some of these things. One note I just had because I just mentioned it and then Alex told me to add it to my list is that like it kind of goes back to that whole like all the way beginning of this podcast. We talked about toxic positivity. It's like
Mhm.
Toru is the type of character that would be very annoying if it weren't for the dynamic that she has with the other characters.
Okay, and I know that I have been highly critical this entire episode about like about some pretty like some deep emotional stuff, and I do want to put out there that I actually really did enjoy this show. But Lord, I like if Toro was my friend, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't know if I could hang out with her on a daily basis.
It took me doing Tavern Team to realize this. So if you hear it in both episodes, yes, I said it. But I realized that these are all caricatures of personalities.
For sure.
And so she is too, right? She's the extreme of positivity versus the extreme of happiness or the extreme of sorrow or the extreme of anger. She's an extreme as well. And because she doesn't turn into an animal or doesn't have these magical powers, I think a lot of times we forget that she really is just as extreme of a character as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We try to put her as the normal, and she's really not the normal.
Do you know what it really reminded me of?
How much
She
you
re-
love me?
She
Ew,
reminded me
gross.
of Batman in the Justice League. Because she's around these myths and these gods and all of that stuff, and she is the absolute best prepared for any situation that you can throw at her. And it's really just like hard work that's getting her through this at this point, right? And so if I had to liken this to anything, I think Batman would be like Batman stories would be very, very close to what we're experiencing right now in terms of like the emotional feel you're supposed to get to this. Because Toru, and I'm sorry to say this, but both from a narrative standpoint and from an audience standpoint, she's there to just fix stuff.
Yeah, and her parents both died in an alley, killed by the Joker. I mean, it's really similar in
I mean, both of her parents died. She's an orphan. I mean, I'm assuming she lives, I mean, like a tent in a cave. That's pretty close.
yeah, same
right?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
definitely.
Like yeah.
Now, my last one that I wanted to do ties into a lot of things. So I'm going to throw out your guys' personal lives here for a second. But
Gross.
JPG, I know that you did MMA fighting forever
Yeah.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
Val
okay, don't make it sound like
forever.
wow. Okay.
Val's done singing, dancing, choir, the whole shebang, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something I noticed in this one, and I'm going to tie it mainly to Yuki and Kyo,
Mm-hmm.
is talent versus the trying hard or practice. Because we see with Kyo that even though he started first, even though he's dedicated his life to it, even though he wanted it more, at the end of the day, Yuki got all the attention for being oh, look how great he is at martial arts. He's so talented. He's the rat. The rat boy is always good at, right? And it was the way that somebody is treated for natural talent versus the way somebody should be rewarded for working hard. And since you've both been in a sport or a performance, I just wanted to get kind of your views on it, starting with Val.
Really think about it that way, because I mostly thought about it more as the rat and the cat, not so much, working hard and natural talent. So this is actually a really interesting way to look at it. Um, JPG, do you want to
Did
start
I
first?
just shatter the
No,
glass on
yeah.
it?
I need
think
process.
we've just broken Val through this entire
Oh my
like
god.
she's never gonna watch Fruits Basket again because of us at this point.
No,
I
never.
love that she wrote a whole list. She's like, I'm ready. I'm prepared. Oh, man.
I would like to say, okay, so out of all the characters that I got to experience through this, Yuki is by far my favorite character, and I never took it as raw natural talent. I took it as, yes, he picked up things faster, but he still practiced and he still did all of that stuff as well. And I think we see a little bit of it in the flashback episode with the cow. What's his name again?
Haru.
Haru. Yeah. So we see a little bit of that as well, where yeah, he does pick it up later, but then also like he still practices with it.
I mean,
right?
he does, but there's definitely, again, we've all been there, done this, right? when a kid starts when they're younger, they're usually better at something because your body is more adaptable and can learn easier when you're young versus starting when you're older. He started much older than the other two kids. And at the end of the day, everybody rewarded him for being good at it instead of rewarding these kids who have been working hard this whole time.
No, Val, I'm going to make you hate yourself.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Because you're going to agree with me on this, and you're going to hate yourself for it, okay?
I'm scared.
I think there's a difference between hard work and application. Because we, Val and I both know there was somebody in your choir, somebody on my fight team that worked the absolute hardest, but couldn't put all the pieces together in order to make the whole thing work.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I can see, like, oh no, I'm thinking of a specific person, like, in your eyes right now. And like, and I can think of people like that too, right? You might have all the pieces, but I liken it this to baking a cake, right? You can have the eggs, you can have the flour, you can have the butter, all of that stuff, right? Just because you have all of that doesn't mean that you can have the application to put everything together in order to make something that you want to make. I think Kyo struggles with that a little bit. But I also think that there are mental blocks there. I also think that he'll get to it. I hope he beats Yuki once at one point. But yeah, I think that there's a stark difference between having the hard work and the application of said hard work.
Really interesting too, because their mindsets are completely different as well. Like Kyo is like working really hard, and he wants to be part of the Zodiac, whatever. You know, he wants to be part of it, and he's working so hard to beat Yuki, and all of this stuff. And then Yuki's like, "I don't understand why you want to be part of this." Like,
part of something I don't want to be a part of.
Exactly.
And I think the piece to that as well, especially being the duality of the rat and the cat in this scenario, is that the grass is greener for the both of them, right? The grass is greener on the other side, right? One person thinks they're missing out, the other person thinks I'm sorry, both of them think that they're missing out on the other person's life at this point.
I mean, and part of this show is to relate it to things that happen in real life. So I'm going to connect that to friends who have been kicked out of their houses for coming out of the closet. And more than anything, they want to be part of their family, but they want to be part of a family that hates them, right? And what they want is they want to be part of the family and have the family love and accept them. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, but you still long and desire for that family to love you, to be a part of it, right? Even if it's toxic, even if it's whatever, you see so many people crave that because, you know, that's that bond, that's that tether, that connection. And even though Kyo is on the outside, he still has the same bond that everybody else has. So all he's longing is to really be accepted in this family that he's already a part of. And so I do connect it to that LGBT experience a little bit of, well, we don't want you because of who you are, because of who you were born as. And if you were anybody else, we'd love you and accept you.
Yeah, I definitely think this whole show has a ton of subtext when it comes to the LGBT community in general.
Yeah. So as a wrap up, would you guys recommend this to people?
100%. I've already recommended it to people. I have a coworker that he's in recommending anime to me, and I was like, okay, but you got to watch Fruits Basket. That is my one anime that I'm making you watch.
It was surprising. There was way more fighting than I thought there was going to be.
Which was great because JPG was like, I wish this had fighting in it, and then Kyo jumped through the roof for like the first time, and I was
the third episode. Yeah,
I'll make your first episode, like first 5 minutes when he appears through. I was like, see, I made it happen for you. You're welcome.
No, I very much enjoyed it, right? I think that this is the perfect gateway into slice of life. And then this is really the gauge of like, okay, if you want a little bit of action, if you want a little bit of intrigue, if you want a little bit of mystery, I think the genre bending that Fruits Basket does for an anime audience, I think it's incredible, and I very much enjoyed it. Now, am I going to be going back? I would like to think so, but I don't know if I will.
You'll
And
probably
but
ask me to spoil everything for you instead.
yeah, and that's not because I didn't enjoy it. That's mostly because like we do a weekly show and I have very little time. So
I'm like Val. I've recommended it to about 1 million people now, and will continue to do so. I know it moves a little slow, but I think it has some really important things to say. And if you're smart enough to look beyond, like, oh, this is their Zodiac member and this is what they go through, cool, you're going to see a lot of really important things happening on screen. And I hope people can experience that the way we did. And before we end it, Val, would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. So, other than on Wednesdays, Women Wednesdays on Twitch with all the other
Twitch,
lovely ladies,
twitch.tv/InQuestOfGeek.
that. Exactly that. You can follow me on Instagram at Val Life. A lot of laws, yes, that is me. And then you can also follow me on TikTok at that same at if you so choose to. I don't post on there as much as my Instagram. And I also have a blog at Vala Life, one less law, valalife.com, where I kind of do more fashion and lifestyle and K-pop kind of stuff there. Um, yeah, I think that's about it.
Guiding your next pop culture journey, this has been an episode of In Quest of Geeks Dungeon Dive Edition.
please check out our weekly Dungeon Dive and Tavern Team episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and any other podcatchers. And make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe.
If you'd like even more adventures with us, our bi-weekly actual play RPG is in the same feed under Issues, where you can listen to us play as teen superheroes using the Masks A New Generation system.
Please follow us on social media at InQuestAGeek.
And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly Twitch streams at twitch.tv/InQuestOfGeek. And as we cross another dungeon off our list, here's what you can expect from our next episode.
This week was actually contained May 4th, and the Bad Batch from Star Wars actually just released. So if you haven't heard of the Bad Batch, they actually showed up as a squad in the Clone Wars series in the last season. So we're giving you guys a week in order to catch up and see if you're going to be liking this newest Star Wars franchise.
And the advice that I got was to watch episodes season 7, 1, 2, and 3 of the Clone Wars.
Yes, that would be the Bad Batch arc.
So in case anybody else is like me and hasn't watched Clone Wars, that's all you would need to connect to this. And thank you for listening, Brave Questers. Remember, use what you've learned today to build better character.